The stars were quiet that night. Commander Yuna sat alone in the control room of Sentinel-7, a small border station at the edge of human space. She was drinking cold coffee and watching the scanner screens. Nothing ever happened here. That was why they sent her to this place. It was boring. It was safe. Then the alarms started screaming. Yuna dropped her coffee and ran to the main screen. Her eyes went wide. The scanner was showing something impossible. Ships. Hundreds of them. No, thousands of them. They were coming out of fold space like angry bees from a broken hive. Each ship was huge. Some were bigger than moons. "Computer, identify," Yuna said. Her voice was shaking. "Veth, Dominion. Total count, 3,214 warships." Yuna felt her blood turn cold. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Veth. They were ancient. They were powerful. They had destroyed 42 species in 10,000 years. No one had ever beaten them. No one had even tried Dot, and now they were here. In human space, her hands moved fast over the controls. She opened a channel to Earth. "This is Sentinel-7, Priority Alpha. We have a Veth fleet at our border. I repeat, 3,000 Veth warships have entered human territory." For a moment, there was only silence. Then a voice came back, calm, steady. "Sentinel-7, this is Admiral Taiho at Earth High Command. We see them. Hold your position. Do nothing. Watch and report." "Admiral, what do we do?" Yuna asked. "We do what humans have always done," Taiho said. "We fight." The channel closed. Yuna sat back in her chair and watched the Veth fleet move deeper into human space. She was scared, but somewhere inside her, a small fire was burning. She had heard stories about Admiral Taiho. He was old. He had fought in 3 wars. He never lost. If anyone could stop the Veth, it was him. On Earth, Admiral Taiho stood in the war room. Around him were the best military minds in human space. Generals, admirals, scientists, politicians. They were all talking at once. Most of them were panicking. "We should surrender," one politician said. "The Veth have never been defeated. We cannot win this. If we fight, they will destroy us," another said. Taiho raised his hand. The room went quiet. "Let me tell you something about humans," he said. His voice was soft but strong. 3,000 years ago, we were living in caves. We were weak. We were food for bigger animals. But we did not give up. We learned. We grew. We conquered our own planet. Then we reached for the stars." He looked at the screen showing the Veth fleet. "These creatures think we are like the others. They think we will bow. They think we will break." He smiled. It was not a happy smile. "They are wrong." The Veth sent their message 30 minutes later. It appeared on every screen in human space. Every television. Every phone. Every computer. A Veth warlord named Kethmora appeared on the screen. He was tall. His body was covered in hard shell like a giant insect. His eyes were black and empty. "Humans," Kethmora said, "we are the Veth Dominion. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have crushed 42 species. Today, we claim your worlds. You have one choice. Surrender now. Give us your planets. Give us your people. Serve us, and you may live as slaves. Fight us, and you will die. All of you. Every man. Every woman. Every child. There will be nothing left. Not even memories." The message ended. Across human space, people watched in fear. Mothers held their children. Soldiers gripped their weapons. Everyone waited to hear what their leaders would say. Admiral Taiho recorded his response. It was sent to every human and to every Veth ship. "Warlord Kethmora, I am Admiral Taiho of the Terran Accord. I speak for all humans. We have heard your message. Here is our answer." He paused. His old eyes were hard as stone. "No." He leaned forward. "We will not surrender. We will not serve. You want our worlds? Come and take them. But know this. For every world you take, we will make you bleed. For every human you kill, 10 of your warriors will fall. You think you know war? You do not. You have fought species that were afraid to die. We are not afraid. We have been dying since the day we were born. It is what makes us strong." He stood straight. "You sent 3,000 ships to conquer us. Send 3,000 more. It will not be enough. We are humans. We do not break. We do not bow. And we never, ever give up. Come, warlord. Come and learn why the universe should fear us." The message ended. On his flagship, Kethmora watched the human admiral's response. Around him, his officers laughed. "Brave words from a dead species," one officer said. But Kethmora did not laugh. He looked at the old human's eyes on the screen. He had seen many species before battle. He knew the look of fear. He knew the look of false courage. This was neither. This was something else. Something he had never seen before. For the first time in his long life, Kethmora felt a strange feeling in his chest. He did not know what it was. It was doubt. But he pushed it away. He was Veth. He was the destroyer of worlds. He had never lost. "Begin the invasion," he commanded. The war for humanity had begun. Warlord Kethmora sent his advance fleet into the Hana system. 200 of his best warships, each one carrying 5,000 Veth warriors. They expected to find humans waiting. They expected fear. They expected begging. They found nothing. The planet was empty. The space stations were dark. No ships. No signals. No life. It was like the humans had vanished into thin air. "Where are they?" The fleet commander asked. No one had an answer. Then the first mine exploded. It came from nowhere. A small rock that was not a rock. It hit a Veth cruiser and tore it in half. Then another explosion. And another. Suddenly, the empty space was full of fire and death. Mines were everywhere. Hidden in asteroids. Buried in space dust. Floating like ghosts in the dark. In 3 minutes, 47 Veth ships were gone. Just gone. No battle. No glory. Just silent death in the cold of space. The Veth regrouped. Their shields went up. Their weapons powered on. But there was nothing to shoot. The mines were already inside their formation. And then, something worse came. The stealth ships. Human frigates appeared from the darkness like sharks from deep water. They were small. They were fast. They hit the Veth from behind, from below, from angles that should not exist. They fired their weapons and vanished before the Veth could return fire. On one such frigate, Lieutenant Doan stood at the front of his boarding team. They were 12 soldiers in heavy armor. Their mission was simple. Board a Veth ship. Take it. Learn everything. "We going fast," Doan said to his team. "We going hard. These things are big and strong, but they have never fought humans up close. Let's show them what that means." The frigate attached to a damaged Veth cruiser. The airlock opened. Dohan was the first one through. The Veth were waiting. They were monsters. Each one was 2 meters tall. Their bodies were covered in hard shell. Their hands ended in claws that could cut through metal. They screamed in rage and charged. Dohan did not run. He raised his rifle and fired. The first Veth fell. Then the second. The humans moved like water, flowing through the corridors, covering each other, never stopping. The Veth were strong, but they were slow. They were used to fighting enemies who ran away. Humans did not run. Humans pushed forward. One Veth warrior grabbed a human soldier named Bora. It lifted her off the ground, ready to tear her apart. Bora pulled out her knife and stabbed the creature in the eye. It screamed and dropped her. She shot it in the head before she hit the ground. "Thanks for the help," she said to Dolan. "You looked like you had it," he replied. 40 minutes later, the Veth cruiser belonged to humanity. All enemy warriors were dead. The human team had lost 2 soldiers. Dohan recorded everything. The ship's design, its weapons, its weaknesses. He sent it all back to Earth. But he also sent something else. Video from his helmet camera. Footage of humans killing Veth in close combat. Footage of the mighty conquerors falling like insects. Admiral Taiho made sure this video reached the Veth fleet. On his flagship, Kethmora watched the footage in silence. His officers watched with him. No one spoke. The video showed their warriors, the greatest soldiers in the galaxy, being killed by creatures half their size. "This means nothing," an officer said. "They killed a few warriors. We will kill millions of them." But Kethmora was not so sure anymore. He had seen something in the video that bothered him. The human soldiers were not scared. They were not desperate. They were calm, professional. They killed like they had been doing it their whole lives, and they smiled. While doing it, Keth-Mora had conquered many species. The weak ones surrendered quickly. The strong ones fought bravely but died in the end. But none of them had ever smiled in battle. None of them had ever looked like they were enjoying it. These humans were different. These humans were dangerous. "Send more ships," Kethmora commanded. "Find their hidden bases. Find their families. Burn everything." The Veth fleet moved deeper into human space. They expected to find the humans eventually. They expected a real battle, but the humans were always one step ahead. Every system they entered was empty. Every planet was evacuated. Every space station was dark. And everywhere there were traps, mines, ambush, ghost ships that struck from nowhere. The Veth lost 10 ships here, 20 ships there. Small numbers for a fleet of 3,000. But the losses added up. And worse, they were losing time. On Earth, Admiral Taiho watched the reports with satisfaction. His plan was working. The humans were not trying to defeat the Veth, not yet. They were bleeding them, slowing them, making them angry and confused. "How long can we keep this up?" Commander Yuna asked. She had been moved to Earth to serve on Taiho's staff. "Long enough," Taiho replied. "Every day they chase shadows is a day we grow stronger. We are building something, Yuna. Something the Veth have never seen." "What?" Taiho smiled. "Their destruction." Somewhere in deep space, the Veth fleet continued its slow march into human territory. They had expected a quick war. Easy conquest. Another species to add to their collection. Instead, they found shadows and fire. And every night, Kethmora dreamed of human soldiers smiling in the dark. The war was just beginning. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the Veth were not winning. 6 months into the war, the Veth finally caught the humans. Warlord Kethmora brought his full fleet to Moran, the biggest farming planet in human space. 2 billion people lived there. They could not all run. They could not all hide. Governor Sujin received the evacuation order from Admiral Taiho. She stood in her office, looking out the window at the green fields and blue skies of her world. She had built this planet. She had raised her children here. She was not going to leave. "Tell the Admiral thank you," she said to her aide. "But we are staying. Governor, the Veth fleet will be here in hours. They will bomb us from orbit. Everyone will die." Sujin turned around. Her eyes were calm. "Then we will die fighting. Send the message to all citizens. Anyone who wants to leave can go. Anyone who wants to fight can stay. We are going underground." The message went out. Half the population evacuated on emergency ships. The other half went down. Deep under the surface of Moran, there were tunnels. Old mining tunnels built 200 years ago. Over time, humans had made them bigger, deeper. They were meant for emergencies. This was an emergency dot when the Veth arrived. They found empty cities. Their scanners showed no life on the surface. Kethmora ordered the bombing anyway. For 3 days, Veth ships rained fire on Moran. Cities burned. Forests died. The beautiful green planet turned black and gray. When the bombing stopped, Kethmora sent his ground troops. 100,000 Veth warriors landed on the surface. They expected to find bodies. They found nothing. Then the ground started killing them. Humans came out of holes that were not there a moment ago. They fired their weapons and disappeared. Tunnels collapsed on Veth squads. Bombs exploded under their feet. The warriors of the mighty Dominion were dying, and they could not even see their enemy. Governor Sujin led the resistance herself. She was 50 years old. She had never held a weapon before the war. Now she carried a rifle and knew how to use it. She moved through the tunnels with her fighters, striking and running, never staying in one place. "They are afraid of the dark," she told her people. "They come from a bright world with 2 suns. Down here, in our tunnels, we are the monsters. Remember that." The Veth tried everything. They sent more troops. They used bigger weapons. They pumped poison gas into the tunnels. Nothing worked. The humans knew their tunnels too well. They had air filters and hidden rooms. And they never stopped fighting. Weeks passed. Months passed. The Veth controlled the surface, but the surface was dead. The real planet was underground, and underground belonged to the humans. Kethmora lost 10,000 warriors on Myran, then 20,000, then 30,000. He had never lost so many troops to a single planet. Far from the fighting, something important was happening. Captain Jisu of the science ship Horizon was exploring dead space. Old space. Places where no one went because there was nothing there. But Jisu had a theory. The Veth were old. 10,000 years old. Someone had to be first. Someone had to be their first victim. What happened to that species? She found them in a dead system with a dead star. Ancient wreckage floating in the dark. Ships that were 10,000 years old, frozen in the moment of their destruction. "Computer, scan the wreckage," Jisu said. The scan took hours. But when it was done, Jisu could not believe what she was seeing. Weapon designs, shield technology, engine plans. Things that were far beyond what humans or Veth had now. The first species to fight the Veth had been advanced. Very advanced. They lost anyway. But before they died, they hid their secrets. They put everything on a signal that would broadcast forever, waiting for someone to find it. "They left us a gift," Jisu whispered. "They knew someone else would fight the Veth someday. They left us the tools to win." She sent everything back to Earth. The scientists went crazy with excitement. These weapons were not just better than Veth weapons. They were better than anything in the galaxy. Admiral Taiho received the report and smiled for the first time in months. "How long to build these weapons?" he asked. "If we work day and night?" 6 months. Maybe less. Then work day and night. We just changed from defense to offense. On Moran, Governor Sujin heard the news through secret channels. She gathered her fighters in the deepest tunnel. "Help is coming," she said. "We just need to hold on." "Can you do that?" The fighters looked at each other. They were tired. They were hungry. They had been fighting for 6 months without sunlight. Many of their friends were dead. but they were still alive. They were still fighting. And now there was hope. "We can hold," a young fighter named Jinho said. "We are from Iran. We do not give up." The others nodded. Sujin felt pride fill her heart. These were her people. This was humanity. Above them, the Veth controlled a dead world. Below them, humans waited in the dark, ready to fight forever. And in secret shipyards across human space, new weapons were being built. Weapons that would change everything. The Veth thought they were winning. They did not know that their end was being forged in fire and shadow. 1 year into the war, the Veth had taken 4 human systems. They called it victory, but it did not feel like victory. Their fleet of 3,000 ships was down to 1,800. They had lost more warriors on human planets than in their last 5 conquests combined. And the humans were still fighting. Always fighting. They did not know how to stop. Warlord Kethmora sent a message to the Dominion homeworld. He asked for more ships, more troops, more weapons. The response came back quickly. "Finish it yourself." The Veth do not beg. Kethmora broke things in his room after reading that message. He had served the Dominion for 200 years. He had never failed. But now, the High Lords were treating him like a disappointment. He did not know that this was exactly what Admiral Taiho had been waiting for, while the Veth were grinding themselves against human defenses. The humans were building. In secret shipyards, hidden inside gas giants and rogue planets, a new fleet was being born. 400 ships, each one carrying the ancient weapons that Captain Jisu had discovered. The ships were not as big as Veth warships, but they were faster, smarter, deadlier, and they were ready. Admiral Taiho stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Unyielding. It was not the biggest ship in the fleet, but it was the strongest. He had designed it himself. "All ships report ready," Commander Yuna said. She was standing beside him, where she had been for the whole war. "Then let's go hunting," Taiho said. "Operation Homecoming begins now." The human fleet jumped to the Seongho system. This was where the main Veth force was gathered. 800 enemy ships, thinking they were safe. When the humans appeared, the Veth laughed. 400 ships against 800? Those were good odds. For the VETH. Then the humans fired their new weapons. Energy beams that should not exist tore through Veth shields like they were made of paper. Missiles that could think, that could dodge, that could hunt chased Veth ships through space. The ancient technology, improved by human engineers, was devastating. In the first hour, 100 Veth ships were destroyed. In the second hour, 100 more. The Veth tried to fight back, but their weapons seemed weak now. Their shields meant nothing. Wing Commander Hyen led the fighter squadrons. She was young, only 25 years old, but she had been training for this her whole life. Video games, flight simulators. She had been preparing for war without knowing it. Her fighters danced through the Veth formation. They moved in patterns that the enemy could not predict. They were not just pilots. They were artists. And their art was destruction. "Target the command ships," Hyen ordered her squadron. "Cut off the head." Veth command ships started exploding. Officers died before they could give orders. The enemy fleet fell into chaos. On his flagship, Kethmora watched his fleet dying. He could not understand it. The humans had been insects. They had been prey. How did they get these weapons? How did they become so strong? "Warlord, we must retreat," his second officer said. "We are losing too many ships." Retreat. The word burned in Kethmora's mind. The Veth had never retreated. Not once in 10,000 years. But if he stayed, he would lose everything. "Fall back," he commanded. The words tasted like poison. "All ships, fall back to the Dominion border." The Veth ran. For the first time in history, they ran from a battle. Human ships chased them, killing stragglers, until the enemy was gone. When it was over, Admiral Taiho looked at the battlefield. 600 Veth ships destroyed. The humans had lost 40. "Send a message to all human systems," Taiho said. "Tell them the Veth are running. Tell them we are coming home." On Naran, Governor Sujin received the message in her underground base. She read it 3 times to make sure it was real. Then she started crying. Around her, her fighters were crying too. After a year of darkness and death, there was finally light. "We held," Jinho said, his voice breaking. "We actually held." "Yes," Sujin said, wiping her eyes. "And now it is time to take back our world." Human reinforcements arrived at Moran 3 days later. The Veth troops on the surface, already weakened by months of guerrilla fighting, could not stop them. In 1 week, the planet was free. Sujin stood on the surface for the first time in a year. The sky was gray with ash. The cities were ruins. But she could see stars again. She could breathe real air. "We will rebuild," she said. "We always do." Across human space, the same thing was happening. Worlds being freed. Veth troops being pushed back. The invaders who had come to conquer were now fighting for survival. But Admiral Taiho was not satisfied. Defense was not enough. The Veth would come back someday. They would rebuild their fleet. They would try again, unless someone stopped them forever. "We are not done," Taiho announced to his commanders. "We are going to their home. We are going to end this." The human fleet set course for Veth space. The hunters had become the hunted. And Kethmora, running back to his homeworld, felt the same strange feeling he had felt at the beginning of the war. Doubt had become fear. The human fleet entered Veth space. 300 ships, carrying the hopes of a species that had refused to die. Admiral Taiho stood on the bridge of the Unyielding. Beside him was Commander Yuna, who had watched the first Veth ship enter human space 2 years ago. Behind them, through the windows, stars that had never seen human ships before glowing in the dark. "The Veth homeworld is 2 jumps away," Yuna reported. "They know we are coming. They are gathering everything they have at the Eternal Gate." The Eternal Gate, the last defense line before the Veth throne world. It had protected the Dominion for 10,000 years. No enemy had ever passed it. "How many ships?" Taiho asked. 1,000? Maybe more. Taiho nodded. 300 against 1,000. Bad odds. But humans had fought worse odds before. "We go through," he said. "Tell the fleet to prepare for the final battle." The jump was short. When the human fleet came out, they saw the Eternal Gate, hundreds of defense stations, 1,000 warships arranged in perfect formation. And behind them, the throne world itself. A dark planet covered in cities and war machines. Kethmora was waiting for them. "Humans," his voice came over all channels. "You have come far, but this is where you die. The Eternal Gate has never been broken. You will be no different." Taiho answered calmly. "We did not come here to break your gate, warlord. We came here to end your empire. Surrender now, and some of you may live." Kethmora laughed. It was an ugly sound. "The Veth do not surrender. We are the masters of this galaxy." "You were," Taiho said. "Not anymore." The battle began. Veth ships charged forward, weapons firing. Human ships scattered, then reformed, striking from all angles. The new weapons tore through Veth shields just as they had before. But this time, the Veth fought harder. They were protecting their home. They had nowhere to run. Wing Commander Hyen led her fighters into the heart of the enemy fleet. Around her, pilots were dying. The Veth were desperate, ramming their ships into human fighters. But Hyen kept pushing forward. Target the defense stations, she ordered. Open a path for the main fleet. Her squadron attacked the stations one by one. They were losing pilots every minute, but they did not stop. This was what they had trained for. This was what they were born for. On the unyielding, explosions rocked the ship. Veth weapons were hitting the hull. Systems were failing. But Taiho stood steady. Send in the assault team, he ordered. It is time. A small ship broke away from the main fleet. It was fast and invisible to most scanners. Inside were 12 human soldiers, led by Sergeant Mireille. She was from Moran. She had spent a year underground, fighting Veth in the dark. She had lost her family in the first bombing. She had been waiting for this moment. The assault ship attached to Kethmora's flagship. Mireille was the first one through the airlock. Fast and hard, she told her team. We are here for the warlord. Nothing else matters. They moved through the ship like ghosts. Veth warriors tried to stop them. Veth warriors died. Mireille did not feel tired. She did not feel scared. She only felt the cold fire of revenge burning in her chest. They found Kethmora on his command bridge. He was surrounded by his personal guard. 20 of the biggest, strongest Veth warriors in existence. They looked at the small group of humans and laughed. 12 humans against 20 of my best? Kethmora said. You came here to die. Mai raised her rifle. We came here to finish this. The fight was brutal. Mara's team was outnumbered and outweighed. But they were faster, smarter, more willing to die. One by one, the Veth guards fell. One by one, Marie's soldiers fell in the end. Only Myri and Kethmora were standing. The bridge was covered in bodies. Both of them were wounded. Both of them were still fighting. You are one human, Kethmora said. He was breathing hard. His black blood was leaking from a dozen wounds. I am the destroyer of worlds. I have killed millions. Myri aimed her rifle at his head. I am from Myran. You burned my home, my family, my children. She smiled. I am here to return the favor. She fired. Kethmora fell. The warlord who had terrorized the galaxy for 200 years was dead. Mireille activated her radio. This is Sergeant Mireille. The warlord is dead. I repeat, Kethmora is dead. Her message was broadcast to every ship in the battle. Every Veth ship. Every human ship. The throne world heard it. The whole galaxy heard it. The Veth fleet fell into chaos. Their warlord was dead. Their leaders were dead. They did not know what to do. Some kept fighting. Some tried to run. Some just stopped moving. The human fleet pushed through the eternal gate. They reached the throne world. And when the high lords of the Dominion saw human ships in their sky, they did something the Veth had never done. They surrendered. 1 month later, Admiral Taiho stood before the Galactic Council. 100 species, watching him with a mix of fear and wonder. They wanted to understand. How did humanity defeat the Veth? You want to know our secret? Taiho said. There is no secret. We are humans. We fight. We fall. We get back up. We fight again. You have all spent thousands of years learning when to give up. We spent hours learning how to survive. They looked at the council members one by one. The Veth sent 3,000 ships into human space. 0 returned. Let that be a lesson to anyone who thinks humans are easy prey. He turned and walked out. The council chamber was silent. Back on Moran, Sergeant Mireille stood on a hill overlooking the rebuilding city. She was holding a small photo. Her husband. Her children. They were gone. They would never come back. But because of what she did, other families would live. Other children would grow up free. The Veth would never threaten humanity again. We won, she whispered. I hope you are proud. The wind carried her words into the sky, where the stars were shining bright. Somewhere out there, other species were watching humanity with new eyes. The young species that had refused to die. The fighters who had broken an empire died, and in the quiet of space, a message spread from world to world. A warning and a promise. Do not anger the humans. They do not know how to lose.